it's the League Cup. It's the Carabao Cup.
That's not the point.
It doesn't help.
The point is at the moment.
It doesn't help right now that you lose to Derby County at home.
Oh, really?
But let's look at the big picture. What difference is it going to make? The only difference it's going to make is that the players on the periphery will not get a game in the next round of the League Cup because they're out. That's all that matters. If they turned around and beat Derby County 5-0, we wouldn't be saying, oh, they're out the woods now and everyone's
No, but it's not.
I don't think it's a huge deal.
It's about the current situation.
I know it doesn't help the current situation.
It's about the current scenario.
The actual result.
For Manchester United, a club of their stature, a club playing in the Champions League, going on to the Carabao Cup should not be a big deal. But given the toxicity around Manchester United right now, given what I think they need to put together a decent run, you get a good run, you get a good result against Young Boys, you come back home, you follow that up with a poor result. Now you're looking for something to build on. All the headlines about Jose Mourinho and Paul Pogba and what has been said and what hasn't, just put together a decent performance and a decent result, and you get a championship team at home to do that when you need a good performance and result, and this is what you get. And as much as you go down to 10 men, Craig checked the stats when Romero went off, Derby would dominate the possession at that point already as well, at Old Trafford. When have we sat here and said that about anybody, let alone a championship team, coming to Old Trafford, dominating possession and being the better of the two teams?
Now United have lost when Fergie was in charge and nobody batted an eyelid.
But they were successful.
Which is fine.
It's fine.
Which is fine when you win. Which is fine when you're winning the league and you're competing in the Champions League. When you're struggling and you're looking to put together a decent run, you need these games. You'll take a win anyhow it comes. And unfortunately, aside from Young Boys, I'm not sure.
If Man City or Liverpool
lost,
if Man City or Liverpool, and Liverpool are playing tomorrow, if Man City or Liverpool are one of these teams at the moment lost, we would probably be going, wow, decent to be out of the Carabao Cup, they can concentrate on other stuff. It's the last thing that he needed was more negativity surrounding the negativity already out there from the Pogba situation and the Pogba captaincy situation on top of the poor performances. When you put, at least 10 internationals out in the field. You have your main striker out in the field. You have your defensive midfielder out in the field in Nemanja Matic. You have Anthony Martial. I mean, the whole thing... By the way,
if they go out and win at the weekend, nobody's batting an eyelid that they got knocked out of the Carabao Cup.
By the way,
well, they have to go do that.
Whether you like Mourinho or not, Pogba's not been great. By the way, Pogba making statements. He's not exactly been absolutely wonderful for Man United in his time since he's come in here. But you can't have as a manager, in my opinion, you can't have as a manager a guy out undermining you like that and then you let him away with it. So I think it's understandable.
What do you expect to happen though, Craig? And I'm thinking of you. If one of your managers had treated you, and I'm talking about you personally now,
right,
you wouldn't have stood for that.
Well, how's he treated?
I'll tell you what. What has he treated? He's criticised him in public. He's embarrassed him during games by taking him off. Then he gives him the captaincy.
Hold on.
Now he's turning around and saying that, by the way, I made such a big mistake of not giving them just the captaincy, but giving them the second captaincy. I mean, he's making a mockery of Pogba.
You don't embarrass Pogba by taking him off. Is he beyond being taken off?
I'm not. Listen,
if you're not playing well, if you're not playing well, if you're not tracking runners, can you not be taken off?
We're not talking about some ordinary guy here. We're talking about a guy that is your talisman, who's maybe having a hard time, who's maybe not producing. So what do? The last thing is going to help Manchester United, because at the end of the day, if you're Woodward, you should be concerned of what's best for Man United. And what's best for Man United is somebody running the team who's going to get the best out of a guy who clearly is a world-class player.
Another way.
And that is not Mourinho. So there's your problem.
I'll tell you, I'll put it another way. You're managing New England Revolution, and somebody's coming out in the press after the game and they're criticising your tactics and they're the captain of that football club. Are you just going to sit back and take it in your office?
Of course you're not.
No, you're not.
But the whole reason this situation is about is because of Mourinho.
Not all Mourinho.
Of course, come on.
No, I'm not having that.
Listen, Pogba hasn't said
I've said it before.
Has not come out before Mourinho's criticised him or done something.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's too many at Man United prepared to hide behind the flack that Mourinho has taken for his style of play. I'm not saying Mourinho is innocent in this. He's clearly not. But there's a lot of players happy to hide behind the he'll be sacked shortly, and when he's sacked, everything will be just fine.
On the one hand, to Stevie's point, Jose Mourinho, in my opinion, did fire the first shot at Paul Pogba before he even returned after the World Cup. All that being said, I have no real issue with what Paul Pogba said yesterday about their style of play. At the same time, I have absolutely no problem with Jose Mourinho stripping the captaincy of Paul Pogba. Because of their history, because of what has been said in the past, everything either of them says right now is going to be interpreted as an attack on the other. So take Paul Pogba, the only one you can, out of that equation, and let's focus on the football. At the same time, you hear people saying, well, I want Paul Pogba to wear the armband in the way and the authority that a Roy Keane did. There is absolutely no way in a month of Sundays that Roy Keane would play in a Manchester United team like this and not have far more to say about the style of football. So something has to give here. This style of football is not suiting Manchester United, and somebody needs to call this team out on it. Somebody needs to take that position. Paul Pogba is the only one I can tell with the backbone to do that.
Well, the reports come. I'm just reading some of the early newspapers from tomorrow in England, and the suggestions are that one of the reasons, if not the reason, is not because he's made some criticisms of his tactics, is that he's told him he wants to go. Him and his agent have told Mourinho, we want to quit. We want to quit Man United as soon as possible, and we want out. So he's just gone, Bosh, you're not the captain anymore.
George,
I mean, it's just poison.
How much truth is there into these stories that are coming out that Paul Pogba wants to leave?
I think if Pogba wants to go, is because he doesn't want to work with Mourinho anymore. I think it's got nothing to do with Manchester United, with the club, with the fans. It's because the relationship has gone so bad now that Pogba doesn't want to be there anymore if Mourinho is there anymore. And I think there was a time where Pogba really thought that Mourinho could go before him, and that there would be more time for Pogba at the club without Mourinho than with Mourinho there. But maybe now you're thinking, you know what? If he's still there by January, it's better for me if I move on because we don't get on and we don't get on enough. Maybe for me to do my best at this club. I mean, I think there's a problem as well with Mourinho's communication. The justification of a bad result is never his fault. And tonight, if you look at the quotes after the game. For Jose Mourinho to come out and said, during the penalty shootout, when I saw that Phil Jones and Eric Bailly were the next ones to take a pen, I knew we were in trouble. What manager on earth comes out on television after the game and blame his player for losing the game on the penalty shootout because he was a centre-back? I mean, I think that's one example of what has been really frustrating for Paul Pogba, and not just Paul Pogba. Many other United players in the dressing room, but Pogba, like Shaka said, has been the only one brave enough or courageous enough or whatever the word to come out and say exactly what he thinks about Mourinho and the tactics and the way he runs this dressing room and the way he runs the team.
How about some of it? How about some of Mourinho? How about some of Pogba's performances, Julian?
But we're not talking. Wait. No, I think he's got a good point, hasn't he? Why is he bringing up Phil Jones and Eric Bailly in a penalty shootout?
Why haven't you got me?
Because you're going back to Paul Pogba. And I think this is bigger than Paul Pogba. This is about
what we saw tonight.
It was about Mourinho losing the team.
What we see on the field, right? Absolutely, is part of the problem for what's going on off the field. And there's no question, players in dressing rooms take sides. And I'll be shocked if the majority are not on Pogba's side. And that will translate itself on the field. So if we want to look at a performance like the one that he had against Derby, there's your cause, there's your problem. You've got the majority, in my opinion, of the squad who's sick of Mourinho as well. It just so happens that Pogba and him are the one that are
in the towel in. So you're saying a team of internationals against a championship team.
There is an absolute world of difference when you step on the field and you want nothing to do with the manager. Absolutely.
Did they throw the towel in against Wolves? What about the attitude when they were abysmal at Brighton, including Paul Pogba and Brighton away, when he couldn't kick his own backside?
Again,
is that Mourinho's fault?
So if he's having a go at players for their attitude, whose job is that? We absolutely annihilated Arsene Wenger because of the attitude of his Arsenal players. Every time they start a game, they're horrible. But that's the manager's job. And if the players have got the wrong attitude, that's the manager's job.